election signs and the timing of the placement of those signs be revised so that the Township of Brock, the Region of Durham, and the MTO become aligned. Would you like to speak to this?
Yes, thank you. I know there's been some confusion, and I'm guilty of it as well, as to when signs could go up. It was September the 3rd for the Township of Brock, and it's today for the Region of Durham. And I'm not sure when it is for MTO, but I do think it would be better to have them the same, so that this confusion doesn't exist for any future elections, and it would just make things a lot simpler for everyone that we can go out and put signs up and not need to worry about having them removed if they were done at the proper time.
Grant.
Appreciate the sentiment of this motion. However, just a question, Mr. Gettenby. What's the position in the province of Ontario with respect to election signs? I've heard that they're just not permitted, or they're permitted under certain circumstances.
The provincial guidelines, they do permit the posting of election signs, provided that they meet certain criteria established by the Ministry of Transportation. Basically, the timing for those signs would be, at such time as the local municipality permits them. Our understanding with the MTO is that signage has to be at least 4 meters from the edge of pavement. They do not permit them within intersections. And the contractors that are employed by the ministry are specifically told, whether there's an election or not, to enforce the removal of signs if they are too close to the highway, within intersections, and so on. So as far as MTO is concerned, they do allow them, both municipally, federally, and provincially. And with respect to the timing of the election signs, that isn't a problem, and I guess it just depends on how the calendar works out. But, and maybe by way of background, the reason why we were out of sync with the region is the previous council wanted signage to be allowed prior to the Sunderland and the Beaverton Fall Fairs. If we align with the region, it is possible that signage will not be permitted until after the 2 fall fairs. So that is something that the next council is going to have to address. It just depends on the cycle and the timing of the calendar. Certainly from a directional point of view, yes, it'd be a heck of a lot easier to say, right, this is the date both on regional roads and local roads. The next council may also want to consider whether they want to allow signage on any public property. I do know that in the township of Scugog, they have prohibited signage on public property. They're only allowed on private property. So that's something the next council may want to consider as well.
Well, my thought is, and I will ask our regional reps what they think, do you think the region would be amenable to moving up the date for signs on regional roads so it would match the township, so it would be before the fairs? Do you think that's something you'd like to take to the table at the region? Councillor Smith?
I think every municipality has different dates, it seems, within the region. Some coincide with the region and some don't. I personally doubt that there would be an inclination on the part of the region to change that date. Certainly, if direction came from this council to do that, we would present it. I wouldn't count strongly on it being changed, but it's something we would, as I say, we would pass through if desired.
The way the regional bylaw is worded is it's whatever date the local municipality says, or 42 days prior to election day, whichever is later. That's the way the regional bylaw is worded. I think, the other issue that the region has to deal with is they have 8 municipalities, not just one, not just us. And so I would not be very hopeful that they would give any consideration to changing off the 42 days. That's historically always been in their bylaw, which is 6 weeks prior to election day.
Any other questions or comments? Let me read the motion again. I was wondering if Regional Councillor Smith wanted to stay with the word revised or maybe change it to reviewed. Move that the bylaw regarding election signs and the timing of the placement of those signs be revised so that the Township of Brock, the Region of Durham, and the MTO become aligned. Do we want to stick with revised or possibly reviewed, or whatever you want? Just wonder.
I'm going to stick with revised because
Okay.
I think it would be simpler to have it with the region.
Mayor Grant.
I have no problem with the resolution. This is, I assume, will be dealt with by the next council, not this council. So, be pleased to look at it in the future.
Oh, let's call the question. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Are there... Oh, we have another motion from Councillor Miller. Move that the Public Works Committee direct staff to prepare an updated report on township-owned properties, right-of-ways, and leased lands. Would you like to speak to this, Councillor?
Yes, thank you. It appears that some council members are not aware of all the properties that we currently have, and I know during this term of council some has been sold and right-of-ways and that, so for the next term of council that would be probably very beneficial to those that are on council. So.
Thank you. Comments or questions? All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And another other from Councillor Miller.
Yes, thank you. Through you to staff. Mr. Colucci, could you give an update on the 60-kilometer signs, please?
Through you, Madam Chair, the 60-kilometer signs are probably 90% complete. There's a few more that we're waiting for locates on, but the majority of them have been erected.
Any others from staff? Mr. Getney, Mr. Colucci? We're going out to the public. Yes, Ralph, would you like to come up to the table, please, and state your name and your address? And we'll look forward to your question or comment in regards to today's agenda.
Good morning. I guess it's still morning. I'm Ralph Malley from 19 Fairgrounds Lane in Sunderland. I'd like to speak and comment to you regarding the gravel program. I'm going to give a testimonial from last Saturday when I was discussing the gravel program with one resident north of concession 9, south of concession 10 on Brock Road on the west side. We actually stood by the road and discussed, and I sort of defended the gravel program, but I had difficulty to defend it. It was a homeowner that shared his view very vividly and colorful, I might add. And as we were standing there and discussing the gravel program, downhill came a motorcyclist, a Harley Davidson, coming very slowly and putting around close to where we were standing. And just about where we were standing, he unfortunately came out a little too far to the shoulder. We were very soft, and he actually fell with a big Harley Davidson. Luckily, nobody was hurt, and even better that I was trained to lift a motorcycle, because this was the big man. He could not lift his motorcycle himself. So I don't consider myself a big man, but I lifted up the motorcycle for him. So everything is hunky-dory. He also lives on Brock Road, and he also expressed his view on the gravel program. I'm not going to share this on social media, but I figure I'd give that information to you, because the colorful language doesn't allow on social media. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Yes, Tony, please come up to the table. State your name and address, put on your microphone, and we'll look forward to hearing what you have to say.
Thank you, Chair Campbell. My name is Tony Laundrie. I live in Sunderland for 28 years on 10 James Street. My question through you is pertaining to Steve Kemp. How do we set up a meeting with him? I read the correspondence, but it doesn't tell us exactly how to do that. And if we have a concern, does it come to council first so that they are aware there was an incident?
Who would like to respond? Mayor Grant?
Thank you for the question, and through you, Madam Chair, may I suggest you have a short chat with Mr. Colucci, and our work staff will contact their work staff, and or at least give you the information. You can do it directly yourself. Would that be sufficient? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Go right ahead.
Pertaining to the sidewalk clearing for all of Sunderland or even any of the towns, has sweepers ever been considered instead of just plows?
No. No, it's voice these plows.
Anyone else from the public? Councillor Smith?
I have one more question, if I could. Regarding the signs, I was going to ask staff, have the signs in terms that are up, has there been very many issues in terms of sign timings or placements or sizes or anything like that that staff have had to deal with?
We've had to entertain a number of questions from candidates with respect to the provisions of the sign bylaw. Probably more so this time than I can ever recall. We have had some questions or concerns with respect to the size of some of the candidate signs. We have conveyed that to certain candidates in question. If they're set back on private property a certain distance from the property line, then the sign can be larger, okay? We've been primarily dealing with not signage on private property. It's more within the road allowance itself. But I will point out, and it is very clearly stated in the candidate's guide, the Township of Brock does not enforce the region's sign bylaw. So I guess the short answer is yes, we've had a lot of sign inquiries and dealing with, and we recognize, yes, there were some signs that went up on regional roads ahead of the date. But like any bylaw, we enforce on a complaint basis. We recognize, yes, it happened. are we gonna jump up and down and immediately devote all of our bylaw enforcement staff to deal with election signs when they're also dealing with property standards and everything else? Probably unrealistic. And, you know, based on our experience this time, I know we have the direction for the date for the signage to coincide with the region, but I would anticipate that there'll probably be a further review of the whole sign bylaw for during the next term of council that you know, hopefully may address some of the issues that have come up this time.
Thank you. Just for clarification, you said that the township doesn't enforce the regional bylaw. That's regarding the timing of the placement of those signs. If there are signs that are improperly placed or of the wrong dimensions within the township and on township property, are they enforced, or is the candidate asked to revise the sign size of the sign, or to remove them, or I'm assuming the township does not remove those signs, from what I understand.
We don't remove signs unless we first of all give the candidate an opportunity. That's the first point. We have had a couple of signs that have been attached to regulatory signage, which is a no-no. So we've given the candidate the opportunity to rectify the situation. If there was blatant disregard to our request, then that's when we would go and remove the signage. Again, it is complaint-based.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Tomorrow night, Tuesday, September 11th, is the opening of the Sunderland Fall Fair, which continues on Wednesday, so I hope everyone comes out and has a good time celebrating agriculture and community spirit. Councillor Lodwick, do you have a motion? Thank you. All those in favor? And that would be carried. I would like to suggest a 10-minute break before Parks and Recreation.